mercado de energia solar e também criando modelos de negócios sociais como cooperativas de energia solar no Brasil. Então, depois eu vou contar um pouquinho mais, mas acho que por enquanto é isso.
Bom dia a todos, a todas. Agradecer muito pelo convite, uma honra. Eu me chamo Joaquim Melo, eu sou de Fortaleza, do Ceará, da periferia lá de Fortaleza, do Banco Palmas, que é um banco comunitário que opera hoje também em várias partes do Brasil e que inovou com a tecnologia da moeda social, que é o dinheiro próprio, e mais ultimamente esse ano também, inovando com a transição energética, nós criamos a PALMA SOLAR, que é a produção de energia na própria comunidade. Já já a gente conversa melhor.
Oi, gente, bom dia. Eu me chamo Natália Mapuá, já estou quase sem voz no 4º dia de COP, mas sou do povo indígena Mapuá, que fica localizado aqui no Marajó mesmo. Trabalho com transição energética dentro da Aliança de Juventude por Governança Energética. A minha pauta ela está relacionada à juventude e transição energética. E a Aliança trabalha em Norte e Nordeste, entendendo como que a juventude pode protagonizar essa transição que já está acontecendo e principalmente como que a gente pode contribuir com soluções dentro dos espaços de governança, os espaços que têm sido colocados para que seja discutido transição energética e que na maior parte desses espaços a gente não encontra juventude, povos e comunidades tradicionais e tantos outros segmentos importantes para contribuir nessa pauta. A gente atua com pesquisa, com incidência e com mobilização. Daqui a pouco eu falo um pouquinho mais para vocês sobre.
Agora sim. Olá, pessoal. Bom dia, tudo bom? Eu sou Carolina Gutierrez, eu trabalho na Schneider Electric. Sou responsável por comunicação, por relações institucionais e também por sustentabilidade na Schneider, que é uma empresa francesa que está no Brasil há quase 80 anos e que atua principalmente com tudo que está relacionado à tecnologia para a energia. Tudo relacionado a como gerenciar a energia e fazer com que o uso da energia seja em infraestrutura, seja em edifícios, seja na indústria, seja em residências, como esse uso é mais eficiente, é mais inteligente e aí a gente não desperdiça essa energia. Só que a Schneider, com o objetivo e entendendo que existem, hoje em dia, 660 milhões de pessoas que não têm acesso à energia no mundo, a Schneider desenvolveu uma parte do seu portfólio, que é o que a gente fala, que é um portfólio social, para justamente levar soluções de energia para comunidades que estão isoladas do ponto de vista energético. E aí a gente vai poder falar um pouquinho mais sobre isso daqui a pouco também.
Obrigada, Carolina. Vamos conversa com você, Carolina. Primeiro, é uma alegria a gente estar organizando juntas, né, essa mesa aqui, a Schneider com a Choca, porque a gente também tem uma parceria, uma colaboração. E a Schneider tem essa perspectiva, né, de atuação intersetorial com a sociedade civil, fortalecendo a juventude. Queria que você falasse um pouquinho sobre isso, do ponto de vista, né, do setor corporativo. Qual que é a importância da articulação intersetorial para o avanço da transição energética no mundo?
Claro, bacana, Helena. Obrigada pela pergunta. Bom, o tamanho do nosso desafio
as a society, as a planet, is really big when we think about the transition of energy. So it's impossible to do that by ourselves. The governments cannot do that by themselves. Companies can also. And also the society can't do that by themselves. So we really need this collaboration. We need to act collectively to fight this challenge, which is a global challenge. And then, also from the perspective of the private sector, which is capable of doing a lot of things, we have the possibility of uniting these forces. And also to bring the topic of funding to all of these conversations and help governments with their challenges of energy transition, which is huge. When we think of Brazil, Brazil is already ahead because Brazil has really clean energy. There has been a lot of funding in the last few dozens of years with renewable energy. Many years ago, with the creation of hydroelectrics, but also wind energy, solar energy. So we have a huge challenge when it comes to how can this energy be used in a way that is more efficient. But we also have here in Brazil 2 million of people that don't have energy, and half of them are in the Amazon, which is a paradox because most of the hydroelectrics are located in the Amazon. But we know that there is a logistic challenge to get to these communities. So that's why this interlocution between all of these actors is really important. When we talk about bioeconomy, for example, how can we guarantee that communities that have potential, huge potential to generate economy through the materials that they have there at the forest, how can we guarantee that they have energy to actually do this process of production? So without energy, we know that energy opens doors to a bunch of other essential things, such as quality of life. We just started. Welcome. So we know that energy opens doors to other things that are very essential to the quality of life to the people, which is the access to education, access to healthcare, and also access to income. So how can we guarantee the electrification of these communities so that they can be sustainable, so that they can also keep the forest alive, so that they don't need to explore the forest in a way that is not adequate because they don't have other option. So we know that when there is exploration that is illegal, it happens because they don't have another option. They need to eat, they need to survive. So if we can take energy, so we can bring the energy, and they have other options, they will start protecting the forest. Thank you, Carolina.
Welcome. Do you want to do a brief introduction? Oh.
Then we'll go back to you. Okay?
My name. Yes, I'm Gilles. I'm working in Schneider Electric, and for the last 20 years, I spend a lot of my time to find the way to put in the responsibility of Schneider Electric all the questions linked to skilling, reskilling, upskilling, especially because in our activity, Schneider Electric, we are a provider of technology to shift to electricity, to shift to decarbonization. And without people, without the fact that we can transform the commitment of the youth to skills to change the world, never we will arrive to these results. It's why it's my main focus in Schneider Electric at the corporate level and with the commitment of all the countries, especially this country.
Obrigada, Gilles. Natália, vou passar para você aqui, a jovem.
Eu peço Natália. Natália, you're leader of the Alliance of Governance for Energy Solution. Talk about how the youth have been doing their leadership on energy transition that can inspire the whole world. I think that to start, I can talk about the youth movement on an overall way. How this generation face this climate crisis that other generations were facing, but in a much smaller scale. And now we have these high peaks of heat waves, and why we are starting to deal with this in our generation, we face the fact that information start to spread and we can access a lot of information, but not always, not everything. The access to information generate access to many other content, and I see a generation start to become really conscious about political issues, about environmental issues, and that's a difference in a generational manner. We see things happening in Brazil and in the world, events that are being led by young people. So our youth must look at this scenario that there's a generation that is complaining, is wanting to make a change, not only environmental but as a legal basis, social matters, and we started to complain about the information that we didn't have. The political events started to have much more youth presence, and I'm so proud that we have ministers and deputies that with the access to information we can follow through on the working that have been done, that is happening. We know that there's an energy transition happening, and by the knowledge that the access to information brought, we can help society, we can help the vulnerable minorities. We complain about a fair energy transition. This is not the first energy transition, but this is our time to look after and be sure that is a fair movement. We know that every transition, solar, aeolic, they all have been some law issues, but many people defended this the path of only one safe energy transition, but the youth have been complaining and have been follow the path that energy transition must be fair, and we believe that the protagonism must be people that are being affected, who is in the middle of this crisis, being affected and from vulnerability from climate change. We see that historically there's a climate crisis because there was a lot of environmental things that were done by man and didn't have punishment. So before you think of a way and of a solution, you need to debate climate justice. We can only build resilient pathways by guaranteeing a minimum of climate justice to repair this.
Great, it's great to hear you. Joaquim, you come from Palmas to Brazil, creating an economic system that is solidary. From that economic system that involves a new way of financial justice, you went to the area of the transition of energy. How are these two fields connected? Can you tell us a little bit about this? After Natalia, it's kind of hard to speak, so I'm going to take advantage of what she's been saying, which is the protagonism of the place. I am a person, I am 65 years old. I was born and raised in peripheries, in very poor territories. So in the last 40 years in the same place, which is Conjunto Palmeiras. It was in that community that we were able to discover something. Even though it's a small community with not a lot of income, we were not poor. We would get poorer because everything that we bought came from big companies like clothes, cleaning products, beauty products. All of that came from outside. So big, and most of the time, big companies who have no social responsibility. So this community decided to 40 years ago, we are not only the consumers of the big companies, we are also producers and consumers. So we created a local bank with our own money, which was not a lot. We started with 2,000 reais with the idea of we're going to produce and consume from what we have. Sustainable products. And we have in Conjunto Palmeiras, we have our own fabric of clothes. We have here Palmas Nato, Palma Tua, the company that creates cleaning products. And to do that, we created a methodology that is called social coin. It's a local coin that only circulates in the company. Everybody buys from themselves, and then if they want, they can trade for real. We digitalized this system. We have our own platform. We have our own app. Since I like to show off, I'm going to stand up here. Each place is a city in Brazil, and they have their own credit card, and they buy there. So that when we come to the transition of energy, this is already some kind of transition because we are not going to travel long distances. Since they buy from their own local and they distribute richness around their own community, they end up not using energy. So since we produce a lot of things like food, perfume, shoes, why can't we produce our own energy? Why do we need the energy that is created by a big farm of wind energy or solar energy? We can produce our own energy here in our community. So we challenged ourselves. In the next 10 years, all of these 60,000 families will consume energy created in the community. And that's why we created PALMA SOLAR, which is a big power plant, and we can sell for 30 cents the kilowatts by hour, when the big companies usually sell for R$1.10. So it's 70 cents cheaper. So the family only needs to associate themselves, and the local bank can finance the energy. We also created the social solar coin. If the company or if the family is not able to pay for the energy, they only needs to pay for us 70% cheaper. So people who usually pay 500 reais, they only need to pay us 90 reais. And half of it comes as cashback for the community's coin. So they can buy in the local communities, bringing the whole neighborhood to the transition of energy, which in our case is the photovoltaic energy. And this increases the production of products locally. All we need to survive, we can produce there, even the energy, which we use in a more sustainable and human way. And we do exactly what you said, which is the sovereignty of the community, the sovereignty of the territory. Because the biggest challenge is to distribute richness. We cannot have energy transition if it's not fair or if it's collaborative. We have to generate richness, and we have to share this richness. Because otherwise we're gonna have clean energy, but the poor people will not have access to that. Because we're gonna save the planet and we're not gonna save the people. So that's exactly what we do.
Cheers. I'll pass to you now. the Shaka and Schneider Electric have a priority, this comprehension of the importance of people develop skills of leadership for this new world that we are living, new forms of collaborate to solve the problems, to communicate. So we have that in common, and it's not so common that in the corporate sector this is recognized. So talk a little bit for us, why do you think it's so essential?
I'm very happy to be in this discussion with very different people, and certainly it's one on the opportunities that we have in the different COPs. It's to discuss NGOs, public sector, small initiative, large company, in order to energize the discussion, but the future. Because each of us, we are here to embark what we discuss with the other in order to create value in the future. In front of this question, I would like to share something which is important for me. Imagine we are in the 18th, 40 years ago, and many people were committed for the climate. But the world was not committed. And the big question at the beginning of the first COP at Rio was to strategize the commitment that we have to take care to the climate and to try to reduce the climate change. And during this year, with good results and very often with a lot of weakness, we are in a global worldwide meeting in order to progress together, because we know that it's the topic of the century. Our vision is to say we have to do the same thing with the youth. We know today that we are in a turning point of this world. First about technology, thanks to digital, but digital is not the unique manner to solve the problems that we face. But we are in a turning point because we have a number of youth that never we had in the past. 1.5 billion people are between 15 and 25. And in the future, this number will reduce. We are just at the time in the history of the humanity where we have the biggest number of youth. And the future of the youth is the future of everybody. We need to put all the actors in the same room and strategize how do we take care to the youth, to give skills, to support them to be involved in the manner to refresh everything. And it's not possible to refresh everything with the people who was from the past, myself for example. We can be very active, but we need to have the inside, the innovation and the contribution of the youth. Today, 20% of the youth are needs without skills, empowerment, and with a very hard future. It's bad for this youth, it's bad for ourselves. And when we are speaking about access to energy, at the beginning it's a question of skills. Today, in many countries in this continent, more in Africa, but in Europe, in the OCDE country, we don't have enough electricians. And many of these electricians have the skills of the past. We have to upgrade the skills of electricians and the skills of the teachers. And we have to embark in this adventure because it's an adventure of development, decarbonization, prosperity for the community, better life for the women, better life for everybody, especially for the youth. It's why we are committed. Never we can be committed alone. When we have to speak about commitment, we speak about coalition. We speak about how we can contribute with some other people, with different manner to work and with different manner to be active, to be more efficient together. It's why for a long time we are partner of Ashoka. It's why we have many actions to train the youth. We have obtained this very amazing number. We have trained 1 million people at the bottom of the pyramid around the world to the skills of energy. And for us it's key because when you have youth with the skill of energy, when they would like to build their own future, they will use these skills to maintain, to install, to sell, to be active in this new reality of solar energy, mini-grids, decentralized energy, many different new jobs where we need this youth. But for that we need a coalition. It's why we are with this actor, Ashoka.
Obrigada, Gilles. Muito obrigada.
Okay, so I will hear now a little bit of Graziella. Graziella, can you won the challenge that we did together, which was with REVOLUSOLAR, which is actually revolutionary, and you're gonna tell us a little bit about this. But first, I would also like you to tell us how did you develop the necessary knowledges to create REVOLUSOLAR. I know that you didn't do it by yourself, but to make this idea pertain. Thank you for your question. I always go by the perspective of what Natalia has said. I believe that youth is very strong in the climate topic, and this has come with a lot of opportunities that has been opened for the youth. I am part of this opportunity that was open. I'm only now participating in all of these events because there were opportunities for me. At my first COP, I went to the Egypt by Young, which is one of the ONU's constitutions that creates opportunities for youth that discuss the climate topic so that they can bring their demands to these discussions. Since then, all of my life has been changed and I started to enter this context. And after I came back from the COP, I met a lot of the people from the government. Lula had just been elected, so all of his government went there to COP, and I was able to meet everyone there. And I had the opportunity to meet other ministers, and I also had a closer contact with the federal government. So then I started to develop other abilities about policies. I think that the discussion of energy is very technical. I think this is a very technical discussion. So it's really hard to insert the youth in this discussion because you need technical abilities. Sometimes you need to be an engineer to discuss this stuff. So the youth is still capacitating themselves, but they are occupying these spaces. So they need to fight even the barrier to participate in these spaces, because most of the time when I go to these discussions, there are a lot of men, a lot of older people. So the youth that participates there struggle to even discuss the topic. So, but when we start to insert ourselves, they notice that we are participating. This is not only about the changes of technology, because the technology by itself cannot guarantee justice. Technology by itself cannot guarantee that we're going to have a transition of ecology. What guarantees that is how we're going to do that. How is the solar energy going to get to the territories? That's how I created REVOLUSOLAR. We created this 10 years ago, and it was born along with the territory. It was created from the local associations together with specialists, and we did this mix of traditional knowledges and technical knowledges to have what we have today. So all of our methodology, and that's what we have today, something that has been spending, and we've been getting more space based on this collaboration and the construction with the communities. So we have this methodology that we call solar cycle. It takes, so because this is something that is a knowledge that is traditional, which is prioritized in schools, health posts, and then from that point on we can engage with the community and train the people from the local so that they can also work in the implementation of this project, so they can also be inserted in the market. Because if we're talking about a new economy, we need people to work on this, especially when it comes to solar energy, which is the second here most used here in Brazil and one of the biggest ones in the world. So we need to have capacitated people to put them in the market, in the industry, because these people most of the times they live in the margin of poverty. So we have here a lot of dimensions to discuss. One of the biggest challenges that we have is the logistic. We have more than 1 million of people in Amazon that don't have access to internet, to energy, sorry. So they need to have energy during the whole day. So this is one of our priorities when we have the program Luz para Todos. We brought this to 70 million of people. We also have other layers, which is what we work on, which is the quality and the price of this energy. Today, research by IPEC, more than half of Brazilian people spend a lot of his money, most of their money with energy and gas. And when we talk about the quality, in another research done by Polish, show that the quality of the energy affects especially people, women, because for those people that work in these communities that are focused on favelas and peripheries, we know that the people that live there are black people and also families that are led by women. So today Brazil has one of the most expensive energy, and the energy that gets to the favelas and periphery areas are even worse. So we need to foment that. We need to get to them an energy that has quality, that is renewable, so that they can develop themselves economically, that they can also circulate the income. So this is something that we've been doing just so we can have this access, because we also work with indigenous communities. We just started a project of micro network with the Amazon. So just to connect a little bit of your question, so when we talk about the private sector, today we do have private institutions, we have government, we have philanthropies, just so we can unite all of this, because only the public resources is not enough. So we need the mobilization of all the actors so we can do this transition in a fair and inclusive way.
Carolina, let me ask you. Schneider already graduated more than 1 million people in electricity and energy transition. How has been it being implemented in Brazil, the paper, social paper of Schneider?
Essa pergunta está bem conectada com
This question is really connected with what she just said. From 2009 until 2055, Schneider managed to capacitate more than 1 million people. We understand that people don't have the knowledge to be able to use this technology. So from graduation in areas that are related to energy and electricity, automation, renewable sources of energy. Well, this, in the case of Brazil, it was more than 100,000 people graduated. So we're ending a cycle right now, fulfilling this objective, now looking for the next 5 years to 2030. The idea is to train more 3 million people worldwide. So make partnership, especially with institutions of knowledge. It's talking about SCHNEIDER. SCHNEIDER is a strong partnership that we have, because it is It is all over the territory. So just with Senai, we are in more than 30 schools, and we got some expressive numbers. More than 7,000 people are graduating from Senai. So we are training the teachers, using our products, using our methodology, so people can have practical classes. But not only that, we look to specific places. We have a specific courses for women, for young girls. We count on a huge men presence, and we need more women involved on engineering, math, to guarantee that we have women work in these areas. We have partnership with the prisonal system, that we have technical schools in this prison, that people that are doing time, they have an alternative when they have their freedom. So with that, we managed to improve their careers and assure that these people are making part of the movement. We have a school boat that act on Amazon region, sailing through the river to bring knowledge to more isolated communities, and that connects a lot with the program of access to energy. Once installed a micronet energy system, how can the community do the maintenance? How can they operate? So they need knowledge. Our mission is too big. We cannot do it alone. When we think about the partnership with the government, we need it to bring sources so they can, so we can bring investors. We need public policies that can make us make new deals, new partnership with other companies. We have a perception that if a community needs a specific need, when you listen, you think that the necessities might not be just as simple.
Natalia, so just taking this into consideration of what Katarina has mentioned, the opinion of the community is really important. The community knows what is their context and their necessities. So the communities are millions or thousands. A lot of them have a lot of youth, so the youth is very diverse, and they also need to participate and be heard. So how can you do that so that they can actually participate effectively in the processes of construction of solutions of the decisions? Well, I believe that I can start by talking a little bit about what I've heard from the communities in general and how this has been happening. We have one of the biggest issues, which involves not only the energy discussion but also a lot of other scenarios, which is the consultation of communities, but it's not really taken into consideration because this is also not obligatory. Because of that, we have lack of care from the government, making it so that most of these projects that were created they were projected without listening to the communities. So when we look at these processes of protocols that happen inside the community, they always take into consideration all of the groups, from kids to the elders and also women, putting all of the perspectives. So they establish this kind of surveillance on the decision on how the projects get to the community. But these protocols, they are always ignored, or they are not put as a priority. into a document that should actually be implemented by the companies or even sometimes by the government, because sometimes when they implement, whether it's projects, whether it's, I think, projects in general, and then it's been a struggle for us as a community, as a person of a community, to create the protocol and also to make this protocol be considered in the implementation of projects. So taking that into consideration, since the protocols are not really taken serious, the elders and the younger people are ignored inside this process of consultation and this process of understanding. Even the organization of civil society enter the communities with projects that in theory should benefit, but they don't even ask the people how these projects should be implemented. So if the organization of the civil society, which in theory are the organizations that should fill the gap to create projects that have this mentality that they can create any project, we will hardly ever have implementations that would really take into consideration the voices of people that are inside the territory. And this is something that has been done for a long time. And when we enter in the discussion of the transition of energy, this is really visible, because I was in a table 2 days ago that had a person of the Ministry of Mines and Energy, and they were saying that Brazil is the leader in renewable energy, and I was late for another event, but then I thought I need to wait because I need to say something about this. And then I said, if there is renewable energy, you have this percentage that is the biggest amount of energy, it's because people were not respected, forests were deforested, and communities were killed. That's how it happened. And then when we look at these numbers, especially when this is a huge myth to think that renewable energy is the solution, because when we look at the implementations of the hydroelectrics, they didn't listen to the people, and they violated a lot of territories so that other people could have a better quality of energy, because the violated territories didn't get the energy. When we look at the numbers of who was affected by, so that others could have energy, these people don't even have energy sometimes, or they have really bad access to energy. So we look in a very unfair scenario. Why? Because people are there, and then other come to their territories, invading there and implementing projects, and then the people that were invaded don't even get the benefits. So if we go to any of these scenarios, we still fall in the same place. Wind energy that was installed in the northeast of Brazil were put there inside communities of people that had their life affected by that. Even their mental health were affected because of the noise that the wind energy causes to that community. We can even measure how much they were impacted, and they don't even know where this energy is going. Most of the times it's not even going to Brazil. Sometimes it goes to companies outside of Brazil. When we look at oil exploration, it's the indigenous people that are being threatened, and they need to leave their territories because there has been happening a bipolarization because of this process of oil exploration, because they don't have environmental security. And even if we don't take into consideration the research, it's important to put this out. When we look at this scenario, we have a really important point. There is an intention, an economical intention, that is always going to be bigger than any other kind of intention. And this is what we need to fight against, because we are inside the capitalist system, and it's really hard to leave the system. But if we see history that this system that is capitalist is destroying our future and is also threatening our future, it's time for us to change something, because otherwise we're not even going to reach the next years. And that's the important thing to mention, because we are far from guaranteeing this access to universal energy. If we keep having this kind of perspectives that are colonial perspectives that are still perpetuating society today.
Thank you. I'll ask our next guest to use his 3 minutes. Joaquin, I said that there's a capitalist system. How do you create a collaboration from a different territory for the system? Don't provoke me. 3 minutes. I think Natalia did a perfect diagnosis. I will continue my thoughts, because I'm someone from this territory. So I think that there's an extraordinary opportunity to solve these problems. When you produce energy, we're talking about photovoltaic, solar, but biogas, biomethanol, biomass, many sources of energy. I think that in the communities, to solve energy crisis, is we not only transform from decarbonated, we need to look from the down up at the communities. We can do this. So we need to train, we need to finance. Brazil injects 60 billion per year to stimulate renewable energy. How many millions goes to indigenous communities? So we want a fair energy transition. We can and will be producing our own energy to distribute income, face inequities, make sustainable development. There's a project at the government of the Congress that is discussing that has this vision that we need to transpond this barrier. We can produce our own energy on these communities, and we have a fantastic youth. The Federal Institutes of Education at Brazil, the universities, there's a whole new generation that should join energy transition with digital platforms and have a huge potential. To conclude, on my last moment, what does Brazil have as a differential? Brazil has innovation, capacity. As we always say, Brazil has a creative spirit. We need opportunity, we need investment, and we can do a new energy source so we can face poverty and hunger. Thank you. Cheers. How do you see this moment looking for the future? How do you see the collaboration between companies, communities, youth, the government? How do you diagnose this transition happening?
Historical view, for example, about COPs. I was in more or less the 15 last COPs. Year after year, we understand that the topic is more and more holistic. We are 10 years after the COP in Paris and the Accord de Paris. And during this COP, we were speaking only about carbon. Carbon, it's a big, big topic. And we know that we have to solve this question because for many, many people, the increase of the temperature is just a big drama in terms of manner to live, place to live, environment, and so on. But year after year, we understand that to find the solution, we need to be more holistic. During the 3 last COPs, we are speaking about just transition. Why? It's because no way to try to solve the question of carbon if we don't take care to people, if we don't take care to people with fragility who are not able to spend a lot of money or a lot of tax or to change a lot of things because this fragility, and we need that. We need the change for everything. In the same time, we are speaking about water. In the same time, we are speaking about new technology. We are speaking about biodiversity. All these topics together, or differently, each topic is very difficult to solve. Perhaps all these topics together are able to give us the opportunity to find some new solutions, to try to embark all this effort and to find something new. First thing. But second thing, to do that, we need to be all the actors together. To try to build coalitions with people who are in this coalition with different point of view, different type of interest, but one thing together, the will to work together to be better and to learn in this learning expedition. Because each time that we work with different people, we are here in this round table from different perspectives, different background, different commitment, and certainly if we spend time together, we will be enriched at the end. It's not easy, but never we can find solution without that. It's true that for Schneider Electric, when you use the word corporate citizenship, it's something to try to explain that we have not only to work about carbon, climate, we have to work about an holistic reality where we embark people, and with the vision that without the youth, never we can find solutions. It's why I recommend for each of us, each week, and I try to do that with my team, to try to have a meeting with someone that I don't know, and from a perspective that I don't know. We can manage many things from an office somewhere in a big city, but never to understand the reality. To understand the reality, we need to meet people, to be in the challenge that they live, and with that, we can be innovative.
Obrigada, Miles. Muito animador, né, ouvir aqui, pessoal. Graziela, você vai ter a tarefa de encerrar essa...
Graziela, you have the task to end this conversation. We're here at Pavilion Brazil at COP30. So I'd like you to leave your final message, your report on what you heard here, your message of how we'll be implementing all these actions for energy transition. Look, it's a big mission, but I think that everything that we heard here, it's what society has been demanding. We put this discussion not only technical, but to put people in the center of this discussion. What we based all this whole discussion on is to be an ecological transition. The GHG emission climate crisis and affected people that live in vulnerability, people that protect the territory. So we cannot, we have 30 COPs discussing technical issues, but now we need to take care of the people, women, indigenous people, the youth. We must take the discussion to this level and look for concrete changes. Brazil has some opportunities to do that. There are public policies to implement that with some energy projects, solar energy. We have many public policies already designed, and we need to implement these projects. If Brazil also wants to talk about implementation, we need to do the homework. We've been doing, but there's a long way to go. There are a lot of public policies that need expansion. We need to respect the territories, nature. There's no energy transition if we don't take care of nature. There's one thing that has been discussing is how to do it. We know that we have to do, but the how must be based on people and respecting the territory. Thank you.